This is the February 27th, 2023 Goffstown Select Board meeting. Would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, as usual, is the acceptance and correction of minutes from the 2/13/23 public and non-public.
I'll make the motion, we accept the 2/13/23 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Anybody got anything? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Announcement, supervisors of the checklist will be in session at Town Hall, 16 Main Street, Goffstown, New Hampshire, on Saturday, March 4th, downstairs in room 109 from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. for the purpose of making corrections to the voter checklist and for new voter registration in advance of the town election on March 14th, 2023. Name, address, and party affiliation changes can be made at this time. In accordance with RSA 654:12, those registering to vote must show a government-issued photo ID, documentation showing date of birth and residence address, and proof of citizenship, such as a birth certificate, passport, or naturalization papers, unless the voter has previously registered to vote in New Hampshire. As a reminder, Tuesday, March 14th is voting day for the town and school district. The polls at the Goffstown High School and Bartlett Elementary School will open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. The town's website has a lot of information about the items on the ballot, including sample ballots for the town and school district, the 2023 Voters Guide with information about the individual warrant articles, and town budget information. We have a construction season DPW up next.
Adam will be a little bit late, he was running a little bit late, so if we could go back to his items, that would be great.
All right.
Do you want to move on to the fire chiefs?
Yeah, we can do that.
I did distribute a memo this evening, I also sent it out by email earlier from the chief on the number of bids that we received. One was submitted correctly to the office, another came in by email. It was submitted prior to the deadline. And before we did any of the opening, we did not include that with any of the information. I'll let the chief speak to it.
Go right ahead, Chief.
So, as Derek said, we ended up, I sent out 6 RFPs. 2 called and said they wouldn't be doing it because they're busy. And in the long run, I ended up with 2. One through mail, and then the other through email, and they sent the copies required after the next day. And so I'd like the board to consider, accepting the email presentation, because the RFP said they should mail in the copies. It didn't say, and the RFP didn't say you could, that you couldn't do a email. So considering that they were on time, the limited number of vendors, I'd ask the board to accept the emailed RFP from Warren Street Architects as,
The lesson is learned here, right? So when we say mail, now it could be email or.
yes.
Yeah, we can put that clarification in
We should
future.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's, there's a lesson learned to be learned
Right.
here. Anybody got anything?
Want a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we allow the RFP for Warren Street Architects that was submitted to be allowed into the bid process. Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. And the motion is to accept, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I do have a question.
Okay.
Chief, the bid, what was the voted amount for?
So I asked the chief not to provide you that information until whether or not you were going to
Yeah,
vote to
we get
accept
one
it.
thing done.
So
We accept
if you vote, if the board votes to accept it, I think you'll speak to that.
Just accept reviewing it?
Except for reviewing it,
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
yep, good.
So the motion, if I understand, to accept the emailed RFP from Warren Street Architects as recommended by the fire chief. That was your motion, Mark?
Yep, correct.
Seconded by Collis?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Okay, so now, Mr. Chairman, I have the review of the two RFPs. And in the memo you're gonna get,
These both, everything the same here?
no, it's different from the other one,
It's-
but
yes, it is different than.
so as you recall, Mr. Chairman, at the January 23rd meeting, the Select Board authorized me to put out an RFP for the purpose of seeking information from architectural firms with experience in public safety building and on the costs associated with bringing Fire Station 17 up to current standards and codes. The RFP was a result of a petition warrant article in 2022 requesting $20,000 in funding. Had a total of 6 RFPs were sent out to firms. This included Castle Booze, Warren Street, Mitchell Associates, LaValle Bressinger, Kalo and Blainick, and Team Engineering from Bedford. 2 firms, Kaleo and Beanick and Mitchell Associates, sent notification that they would not be submitting RFPs. Then 2 firms, Michael Petrovic Architects and Warren Street Architects, submitted RFPs, and the following quotes were received. Michael Petrovic Architects, PLLC, put in an RFP at $32,500, and Warren Street Architects put in a RFP for $18,500. So I did look at both proposals. Actually, Warren Street Architects gave us a very in-depth proposal, and if the board wants to see any of these, we can email them to you. Warren Architects was like 94 pages of information. They're very
many?
well.
94.
94. They're very well versed in fire station design of all sizes throughout the state. They're located in Manchester and Concord. So, and as you know, we had 20,000 to work with. So my recommendation is going to be Warren Street Architecture at a price of $18,500.
But your motion is not to exceed a cost of 20,000.
Right, so Warren Architects are gonna do the job with an hourly rate. So we don't know, you know, they may even end up less than the 18,500, but they could end up over that 18,500. So I just want to build in that up to the $20,000 limit in case they come upon something they need more time.
Kelly?
I just want to clarify, Chief, that the Warren Street Architecture, it met all the bid requirements?
Yes.
They're able to fulfill all that?
Both.
Great. And are they willing
Both.
to give us a notice if they're coming up to their hours so we can kind of gauge?
Yes.
Just making sure we don't go over
Yep.
parked hours? Okay.
We'll get together, if it's approved, then, you know, do a contract and work all those out.
Okay.
I think the question is $20,000 going to be enough for them to come up with a finished product? That's always the question.
Right.
I mean, they could get up to the $20,000 and say, gee, we couldn't do it all, you know?
No, within the proposal, they are committing to $20,000 and what we're looking to have them do.
Okay.
Chief, could we just get a copy of that and put it in our room down here?
Sure.
I'd just like to review it and see it, if
Yep.
possible. No rush, thank you.
Jim, you got any questions?
Is this the thing that started out at like $200,000 and then And then they said we can do it for 20, is that?
Yes, this was
That's why we
reduced.
got 20,000, right?
Yes, it was reduced at the deliberative session.
Carlos, you got anything? No. You all set, Kelly? Motion?
Motion to authorize the fire chief to enter an agreement for delivery of a facility study for Fire Station 17, the Warren Street architecture, for a not-to-exceed cost of $20,000.
Second. Do we want to put a date on it by,
They do have a schedule,
okay,
and I think they're talking, study start date of April 1st, and a study completion date by June 30th.
okay. Because motion by Mark, seconded by Carlos. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
How about, Mr. Chairman, I leave this in the room for you now, and I'll just pick up tomorrow
Sure,
or
just
something?
leave it with Derek.
Okay,
I think I closed the door.
thank you.
Is there anybody here at this time for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. DPW Director.
Good evening. Okay, just a couple of items tonight. First one, I believe in your packet is our normal construction season hours request. So as you know, for several years, we've had pretty good success during the construction season, and when the day length supports going to a 4 10-hour work week rather than the 5/8. I don't see any reason to change as it has worked well, and we've been able to manage the coverage. So with the board's permission, I'd like to advertise that with the staff so they can all sign off on the required DOL agreement, which will give us 30 days notice for them before the schedule would start in April.
I'll make a motion to approve the DPW summer construction season schedule as proposed.
Second.
Any discussion? This is something we've done over the years. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Motion was by Kelly, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. The second item I have, we had, 3 years ago, we had went out to bid for asphalt paving, roadside mowing, street sweeping, line striping, and aggregate crushing. All those contracts have either expired or are about to expire from that original bid. Just here tonight to recommend perhaps extending those contracts. I think we could certainly go out to bid again. We've been pretty happy with the vendors that we've had. I think with the recent price shifts in some of these areas especially, we might, in the end, be better off with the overall rate if I can negotiate with the existing vendors or just extend whatever their last pricing was rather than rebid. But if the board would like to rebid, I'll get them advertised and we can do another renewal.
And they're 3 years old,
Yep.
and they're not increasing their rates?
I hadn't even tried to negotiate with anybody yet. I just wanted to see
So,
how the board felt about it.
What are you asking us, to negotiate the contracts?
If the board sees fit, I think I won't speak for all of them, but I imagine a couple of them will hold the pricing, potentially asphalt in particular, which is obviously a big one for us. That contract, if you might remember with Continental Paving, when we bid that, we did a 3-year bid, but we have that price variable with the liquid asphalt pricing. So as it rises and falls, we pay more or pay less, which is usually pretty good for both sides. You're not stuck with any major change if the market shifts. So that's worked out well. I would like to think they could probably hold pricing. I'm not sure about the others, though.
Would it be appropriate to put a disclaimer, but a caveat that any bid that goes 10% more than pricing, that you either put it out or it comes back to us for approval?
I think that sounds like a pretty safe idea. That kind of caps our exposure anyway, at least with that existing bidders.
Anybody else opinion on that?
I mean, I know we had a problem finding bidders or people companies in the past, which is why we did this to begin with. Do you think there'll be any changes to the amount of, if we facilitate bids?
I don't think so. We have had a couple of calls on line striping recently and aggregate crushing. I had a couple vendors call at it kind of out of the blue to ask if it was coming up again soon. It's been pretty seamless with the 4 vendors listed here, so I would hope that all 4 would be interested in continuing on. I haven't heard anything different, so I think either way, we're probably not going to be left with at least no bidders if we did have to re-advertise.
So if people are reaching out to you, especially as the crushers, how much is that on an annual basis?
I mean, we're 75,000. It's a substantial, They're finishing the pile that was started last year, so we'll be okay for quite a while if we have to re-advertise for that one. But it's by the end of the season, usually we have a pretty good pile of material to be reclaimed.
Yeah, I'd at least start the conversation with them and then see if we need to go out. Have any of the markets decreased from 3 years ago? I doubt it.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Asphalt isn't as high as you might expect based on where everything else went, but it's still up.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, anybody? Jim?
Good.
Call us all set?
Thank you.
Oh, this is for 1 year, right? And then we renew?
That would be the plan. I think we don't want to go too many years with it, but just where it was a really funky year with pricing.
Motion?
Make a motion for the DPW director to go along with the contracts and approval vendors list for a 1-year period at this time, not to exceed, what is it, 10% that you had said?
Well, my comment was that anybody that comes in at 10% more should
Yep,
go out for bid.
yep.
Would that, would you agree upon that, Adam?
I think that makes a lot of sense. If somebody, tries to take advantage, or if the price is just going to be crazy high, we might as well
Okay,
find that out.
so the motion by Mark, who seconded it?
I'll second.
Seconded by Kelly. Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Call
we
us?
should identify the vendors. They are Continental Paving, Tar Hall Enterprises, Bigfoot Crushing, and Yarkings.
Yes.
Those 3.
So the motion is to allow DPW director to extend agreements with Continental Paving, Talco Enterprises, Bigfoot Crushing, and Markings, Inc. for the 2023 calendar year. That was the motion.
Yep.
Yes.
Who seconded it?
Me.
Kelly. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all for it?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
The next thing is the vendor list.
Yep.
So there's another motion that needs to be made to the vendor list.
I move to approve the updated Department of Public Works vendor list as proposed.
Yep.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Derek?
Okay, at page 11, you have your committee meeting schedule for the next 2 weeks. I apologize, there was one of the dates are wrong in there, but so on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Economic Development Council will meet in this room,
I got it.
and 6:30 p.m. the library trustees will meet.
Yep.
Next week, again, you have a meeting, we're going to do a meeting next week for the annual report dedication, volunteer of the year, and we will not meet the night before the election, so you'll have that Monday off the 13th.
So next Monday.
Next Monday, you will have a brief meeting, it'll be pretty limited. On Wednesday at 9 a.m., the Highway Safety Committee is meeting at the Police Department.
Yep.
And
got that.
7 p.m. next Thursday, the Planning Board will
Yep,
be in this
we
room.
have that.
At your next page, you have your consent agenda, employee status reports. You have a bachelor degree merit increase for a firefighter. You have a new hire of a DPW truck driver, a new hire of a DPW seasonal driver, and then a new hire of another DPW truck driver. You have a wetland permit application. This is for construction of a vehicular turnaround end of Upton Lane that needs a signature of the chair. You have an off-cycle Lynchville, Danis Park water betterment assessment in the amount of $2,656 that needs a signature of the entire board. You have out-of-state travel notification. This is for the American Public Works Association Annual Conference for the DPW Director. You have the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Street Crime Task Force and Law Enforcement Substance Abuse Reduction Initiatives Grant. This is a memorandum of understanding between the county sheriff and the Goffstown Police Department that needs a signature of the chair. And then we also had a revised amount on the equitable sharing agreement and certification with the police department. It was previously approved, but we had to change the amount on that.
Motion to approve the consensus agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Kelly. Any discussion?
Yeah, where's the APWA conference?
It's San Diego.
Just keeping an eye on that, that's all. Thank you.
I have a question for Adam too.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Is the truck driver hires due to the changes that we made?
They are not.
Okay, I didn't know if they were the
They're
same.
non-CDL as well, but
Okay.
they're at that rate.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
At your next page, you have the assessor's recommendations, an application for current use assessment, land use change tax, and a land use tax warrant recommended for map 2, lot 2. And then you have a tax deferral for elderly or disabled release, which is recommended for map 43, lot 7.
Make a motion to approve the assessor's recommendations as presented.
Second. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Again, we have the townwide fee update before you. The Selectman Lemay did bring in his notes for me to look over. The majority of the items that he had for me, it appeared that you had some comments on some suggestions of fees that were not proposed by the department heads. Speaking to mine, he had some comments on page 3. Under the health, the majority of them were under the health for daycare, foster care, those inspections to increase those. We typically don't have a lot of those every year. I think, so health inspections, we had 1 this year. We had 7 foster group or daycare inspections. So it's not a whole lot of them. So if it is the board's pleasure to increase those, I don't think it would make a major impact. And then you also had some questions. Selectman Lemay had some suggestions to increase the fee for Town Hall and Grassmere Town Hall.
What page is that?
That's on page 4 of 11. I think you would put in to increase those to $20, $20, and $30.
Yep.
I know we don't get a lot of use of this room here, but we do have one group that's using it tomorrow afternoon for a little bit. And then the other question the board had last week was about the building. The building inspections, we had added quite a few, I guess, permits that we hadn't previously. Some of those being for windows, replacement new, siding replacement new. One of the big things we're seeing with the windows is, this is on page 2 of 11. One of the big things we're seeing with the windows is if it's an egress window or an egress door, when it's replaced, it has to come up to current code. So somebody might not be resizing it, but they might be subject to the code that need to increase it. We're also seeing people, the new building inspector has encountered people that are replacing windows and actually cutting into the frame, to change the size of it. So that was the purpose behind that recommendation. And on the roofing, he's run into multiple lately where people are putting a 3rd layer on, and especially with everybody going to solar right now and all the deals on solar, people are putting, a 3rd layer of shingles on, and then they want to put solar on, and those companies are having no issue doing that and have no concerns, but it's going to be the resident that ultimately, if it's not inspected on a heavy snow load, might have an issue.
Well, we're on the same page, page 2. I had a question on interior and exterior alterations, remodel and renovations. That kind of pretty big gap of what that means.
It is, yes.
And I don't agree with that one, and I don't agree with the window replacement. Window replacements are usually done by professionals, and I don't know why we would be charging people to replace their windows or sliders. I understand siding, that could be a problem with the winds and stuff, but there's two things I don't agree with, and that's the interior alterations, remodel, and renovations. It's too, that is too vague. What's considered a remodel and a renovation? I mean, if somebody comes in and has their cabinets resided or redone, is that a renovation?
I don't know where the distinction lines, but again, it's the,
Yeah, it's
since being on for 6 months, our new building inspector has run into people where the entire kitchen has been ripped out down to the studs, and they say, oh, we don't need a permit, it's just a kitchen renovation, and where they're getting into the plumbing, the electrical, and everything, and that's,
Well, you can get into the plumbing if you're replacing a countertop or something, you're into the plumbing, and it's not rocket science. Somebody wants to replace a vanity, and involves, you have to go get a permit for that. I mean, this is too vague.
okay.
Kelly?
Yeah, I have some similar questions about the vagueness. So decks and porches, would that be for new ones or would that be for anything?
That would be for new construction, yes.
So that should be noted
Okay.
on there. And then the same question for fences over 7 feet high. Is that just for new
Yes.
fences? And why does the 7 feet high matter?
It was my understanding it was part of the building code once they get over that height, but I can double check when we have the public hearing on that one.
Okay. I guess I still have questions about the why behind a lot of these. I mean, I know you just explained a couple of them, but if it is for very specific things, like with the windows, like egress or a new window, maybe we specify that. I
Okay.
mean,
If it's just a regular window replacement, in and out, I don't understand why somebody's got to pay a $50 fee.
right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and same with the roofing. Like if someone's just replacing any roofing, we're gonna make them pay a fee.
I guess, I mean, the other option is we do a better job of educating people of what the code actually says. I think what the inspector is trying to recommend is he's seen a lot of issues so far of people doing something that is not allowed by the code, of putting that third layer of shingles on, or actually cutting into the structure when they're doing replacement windows. And his intention was to make sure that homeowners or the contractors are doing it the proper way. So I guess the other route is you, as a board, could take some of these fees off, and then we could get, I guess, some informational flyers out there, or have stuff on the website of what type of window, door construction does require a permit, and, you know, what you have to consider, as
Yeah.
well as the roof.
Going back to the windows, as you just, it specifically says replacement.
Right.
So if I want to do a replacement window, I got to come in and pay $50 just for a permit fee. And then does he have to come out and inspect it?
Yes.
I don't know if that's,
But I guess my question would just be why
Okay.
in that instance? I mean, I have a really old house and I've replaced windows, not change, you know, like why would he need to come look at them?
I can have him come and speak to you.
Because if there's a valid reason or safety issues, obviously, you know, we should talk about that, but just to say we're gonna charge people these fees for doing these things to their buildings that we haven't had for a long time, I just wanna make sure that we're sure that, you know, charging people a fee and having an inspection is worth it.
Jim, you anything?
No, it's going to hearing, right?
But I think if I just understood what Derek said, he's gonna have somebody come in first.
I can have again, you can make changes after the hearing, so if it's acceptable, I'd like to schedule a hearing for the 20th, and I can have the building inspector participate in that public hearing and answer some of those questions for you.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What's the incentive for upping the fees right now? I don't know, where's this coming from, I guess?
So every year, departments do a review of fees to see that we're in line with what other communities are doing. Again, with the building inspection fees, we do make an attempt to cover the cost of the building inspection. It's a little bit difficult because that has a shared position. So in 2022, we brought in about $167,000 in revenue in that department. That department, without the zoning position that got changed, is budgeted at about 134, so there's a little bit of excess. But again, you have that other position that we're looking to bring in for another, inspector. So again, these are just those recommendations.
Call us.
Peter, it's not really important to me whether or not we're in line with what other communities are doing. To me, it's whether or not these increases are justified, given that tax rates are going up. This is a fee, it's another cost imposition on homeowners. And so I want to make sure that there's justification for each of these increases so that we aren't putting additional financial burdens onto homeowners.
So I guess my question to the board would be,
Which ones?
what are you looking to do in terms of building? Are you trying to break even in that department? Is it because when you have that revenue come in, it is less revenue that we have to collect in taxes. So basically, those people that are using those services, those actually pulling the permits and using those services are paying for those services versus all the taxpayers paying for those services. So are you simply looking to break even and get a revenue in, revenue out kind of with the building?
Well, I haven't really ever looked at it that way. I thought that was a service of the town. I never looked at it as a profit center. How's that? That's the way to put it, and.
Yeah, my preference is that, I think, it does cost us money to have people improve their homes and this and that, and I think that should be paid, but I'm concerned about, are we just making money off of this? And I guess your question was, are we just looking to cover our costs? And I think the fairest way to do it to taxpayers is to keep it as close as we can to covering our costs and not making money off of it. But
I
again,
don't disagree.
no, yeah, I mean, that's my only
Is there a
point.
justification for each of the increases?
Just to raise them, just because we do it every year is not a good justification. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think we raise them every year. I don't think we've raised them this much.
I don't think you've done building fees probably in 10 years, to be honest with
So
you.
Okay.
I haven't seen that. Other stuff we have, like trash, things like that, as far as the transfer station.
Derek, would it be possible for, if we set the hearing, to bring with you kind of what the cost would be for us, for the two employees?
Yeah,
So we
I
can
can
know.
provide you with that entire, how we have it budgeted, absolutely.
Because then with these new fees, we don't really have a handle on how much that would add.
No, and unfortunately, at the last meeting, you asked if we could extrapolate it out. We don't have the data. Everything's based on square footage of the project. We'd actually have to task somebody with pulling all the permits, entering that in, and then converting it to the new permit fee. So we weren't able to extrapolate.
Would it be worth trying to do like spot check some of them?
We might, yeah, we can probably do a new single-family home,
Yeah.
what your difference is there. We can probably pull out, maybe 10 pretty typical ones.
Yeah.
And I can have the building department do that.
Okay.
So then with that question, that just gave me another, if they're getting like a residential accessory structure permit, would they also then have to have permits for all of these other additional items that we're talking about adding? So if that had windows and a roof and a porch,
I would think that falls under the building permit itself,
I would too.
yeah.
No, and I think it falls under the building permit because the building permit is based on the value. So if you had an accessory structure that had,
Yeah.
I guess that raises the value of that, and because it's all value-based now, rather than square foot based.
That would be my assumption, but
Yep, I can get clarification.
I would like to clarify, and if that is the case, and we decide to keep them, just to include that.
Yep.
that These are kind of individual things.
All right, so as we sit now, we're gonna move on to the 20th on it.
For hearing.
Yeah, we'll bring in the building inspector, so
Yep.
Peter, just one clarification if I could. On the septic system replacement in kind, bed bottom only, what's the rationale behind that, bed bottom only, Derek? I mean, DES has to approve septic system replacements, even in kind.
The designs, but this is for the actual, somebody to go out and do the inspection, to do the site inspection.
So to inspect the bed bottom.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Need a motion?
I think, I don't, do we need a motion? Just,
No.
I think we already did that, didn't we?
No, you didn't. You brought it back to this meeting, but,
Just-
yeah, I guess I would ask for a motion to go to
Go ahead.
public hearing
Schedule a
on the
public hearing.
20th.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing on the proposed fee increases.
Seconded by
Second.
Kelly. Motion by Collis, seconded by Kelly. Any further discussion? Seeing none, motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
And at your page 26 of the packet, and again, we had a problem with the copier did something crazy, so you have a revised one for you. I don't know how that happened. And it actually happened again, and Selectman Lemay can attest that it happened again to me
It did.
tonight, but different.
Not quite as bad as this, though.
Yeah. So you have a recommendation. We put out bids for the aerial mapping project of the town. Those came in on the 22nd. We received 5 timely bids that were all compliant for what we were seeking. The Information Systems Director is recommending that you award the bid to Coursera International. They have done flyovers in the last few years for Salem, Keene, Claremont, Derry, so they have experience doing that in this area of the country. You see on the bid tab on the reverse of this page, NV5 Geo was a very similar bid, but their flight and aerial photography, they were proposing to use data that they already had from 2020 when they flew the state. It would be an additional $21,000 if they were to go and fly it out, so it would be just a little bit more. So taking that into account, the request is to go with Coursera and to include all optional items that they have listed in their bid, which include hydrographic mapping, 3-inch ortho imagery, LiDAR contours, and then to fit everything to the parcels.
So that's additional on top of the
That's
68?
additional on top of, for a total of $95,500. And this was a special article on
95,005.
500. Yep, and this was a special article at 2022 that the board carried over from fund balance, the amount of $100,000.
Is there any, I remember we did this a long time ago.
2012.
Yeah, I think I was on the budget committee then or something.
Yep.
And there was discussion about the company that was doing ours was gonna do some other local towns
At the same time.
at the same time. Do we know if any other towns are doing it? We got a better deal when we did it that way, if I remember right.
Yeah, no, I don't know if any other towns are doing it, and we did not ask that in the RFP package.
You get somebody like Ware Dunbarton doing it or something, you hop on with them and you get a little bit better deal, but that's fine. And the other ones here don't include, like NV5 Geo, none of that is included in the optional stuff except for that one item?
So the top part where you've got, it's, what, 6 different
Yep.
items, those were mandatory for them to price those out. And then the optional items was really open-ended. So you do see some similarity across between some of the vendors, but some of them did not include all of that.
Okay. And this is gonna be done when?
I asked for authorization to move forward and authorize the town administrator to negotiate and sign a contract, or have the chairman sign a contract, because they said if we can get the contract done in the next couple of weeks, they will fly it this spring.
And that money, it doesn't matter whether the budget passes or not, that
Correct.
money's already been set aside.
That was already appropriated at town meeting 2022.
Okay. You got any questions? Motion?
Would you prefer you sign it or have Derek sign it?
I would just have Derek sign it.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we award the townwide aerial mapping project to Coursera for a total of $95,500 and authorize Derek to sign the contract.
Second. The only thing I'd change is I'd authorize the town administrator to sign the contract. Something happens to him, he falls down, he's out.
I assumed Gail would write that.
And you made the motion, who seconded it?
Yep.
Jim?
Jim.
Any just further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. New business. Anybody got any new business?
Can I bring up one item for new business?
Sure.
I will resend it, but all members should have received communication from the Secretary of State's office about the new requirements for affidavits for people that do not have proper photo identification for the elections. I would ask all of you to review that. Again, Kathy provided me a copy, I'll resend it to everybody. And then if anyone is unable to be at the elections on the 13th, if you could let me know so that we
On the
can-
14th, you mean?
14th, yes. Thank you. On the 14th, please let me know so that we can start to work to help you find Selectman Pro Temp to serve in your stead.
I won't be there because I'm running.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
I'll be Bartlett.
Okay.
I can be at the high school.
High school.
Wherever you need me.
Okay, you're right, so I'll work with you.
Yeah, I think, somebody said they were gonna do it. I think it might have been Jared Talbot.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'll talk to Kathy and we can reach out to.
Either Jared or I think even Joe Alexander expressed interest.
Okay.
So maybe they could split it, so I'll
Split
be
the
there
day.
the whole day.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great.
Okay. You don't want someone who's done it before?
Like,
David, Scott Gross has done it before.
I don't know if
Okay.
Scott wants to do it. Last time he didn't want to do it.
Well, I just figured he'd be doing the count stuff, so.
Yeah, he usually comes in at night.
Yes, he does, he
Yeah.
comes in at night and help, but this will be during when the polls are actually open that week.
All right, so we got that, right?
Yep.
Okay. I wanted to ask DPW Director a question. I just wanted an
Sure.
update on the burner and if it's up and running and how it's working.
So it is not running yet. The DES piece is done with EPA. Just minor hiccup with the electrical line. So the three-phase that goes to our recycling building is not can't support the additional load of that motor. So Eversource has got a pole set that has to come in because, of course, the last pole that's right there.
Did you say that again?
Siri wants to get involved in this conversation. Sorry. Eversource's last pole that feeds the recycling building and the rest of the transfer station's got too many transformers on it. So they're going to set another pole shy of that to put this size transformer on to feed the burner. So probably mea culpa. We had spent a little more time bringing in an electrician before we had, set the ball in motion. They probably could have gone through and figured that we were going to need an upgrade. So it'll probably get us into March, I think, by the time the pole's set. and then the conduits in, but should be able to touch it off.
Is that extra fee?
It's gonna, there will be a piece from Eversource, and I think the electrical is gonna be more than it would have been if, we would still have a conduit from the recycling building, and we kind of planned for some minor panel work there, but if it's a whole new transformer, I think there's gonna be a little bit more than we had hoped for, unfortunately, out of the transfer station facilities budget, but won't be a buster by any means, but just kind of more of a pain that it's gonna add a couple weeks here to the.
And the scale's up and running?
The scale is up and running. So far, so good. One interesting thing that came out of that is the software with the new readouts. We may have to add a license for if we intend to have our drivers continue to weigh in at the exterior panel. So we have them weigh in salt during storms, try to get a handle on how much salt's going out to each plow route. Sort of a self-report thing, because they could come back empty at any time throughout the night, and we don't have the scale operators there Mondays or weekends or nights. So they come in and there's a self-service panel. The way the new software talks to the scale and the way the new software talks to the credit card machine, we can't just leave a open terminal all day long if the scale operator is not there. So sort of a byproduct of those two upgrades, but we're not sure yet if we're going to continue that practice of having each individual driver weigh in. We don't have any chloride impairments. Currently, the Catamount Brook is being cleared on the next update of the MS4, I'm sorry, of the 303D impairment list for the state. So if we're out of that region where we don't have any chloride impairments, I'm not sure we need to take that extra step of tracking each individual salt route right now, as long as we get a handle on, for each storm in general, how many routes were being treated, and then overall for the year, how much tonnage we use townwide. We can get close enough with estimates. So we may not do that upgrade, but it's just kind of a lost piece of info there. But
And you were having problems with salt deliveries. How are we on that now?
we're good. They were able to support. We did end up hiring some trucks to help them to get some loads faster. We could see the back wall and very low on the back wall of the salt shed, which is never a good place to be, certainly in the middle of the season.
This time of year.
And there were quite a few towns in the same boat. So luckily we were able to get that plussed back up in good shape, and hopefully we don't have too many weeks like this last one where it was, you know, multiple returns. For at least some of them were short, but nobody wants to come back in for 3 hours after being on for 24 and only home for a few hours. So let's hope we don't use it quite as fast as we have been lately.
Anybody got any questions while he's here? No?
Our favorite part of the fence got hit again, huh?
Oh, on the
Nast Road.
yeah, the
I didn't know if you knew about it.
you know, I hadn't seen it, but you know, that's a recurring.
That's the one by Ollie's?
Yeah,
I was there, I didn't notice it.
yeah. Looked like, I mean, it got slammed pretty good this time, not like the last time, but.
That's not good. Well, thanks for the heads up. I'll put in a work order if we don't have one already. That area in particular is going to be impacted. That we've got the engineering study right now for that little piece of Mast Road to see if we're going to change the two-way left turn lane in the center. If we do, our hope is that we can pull the sidewalk out to the pole side of the street and kind of increase the stacking.
Let's make sure we
at the same time.
communicate with Ollie's too, because people are in and out of there all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Good enough, thanks, man.
Oh, well, I'm here. I heard there was a question potentially about road postings.
About what?
Road postings, seasonal
Yeah.
road limits, weight limits. The state started posting some of their roads last week. If you look at their website, they've got a nice map, but right now it's just North Country type stuff. We have not yet met there's a threshold of degree freezing days, and if you get an accumulated number of freezing days, it kind of is an indicator of how deep the frost is. We haven't met that yet, and certainly haven't turned the corner yet to the number of degree melting days to sort of offset. If we don't get to the overall threshold of the number of freezing days, what we've done in the past is we usually kind of pick a time in March and post gravel roads and any roads that were base paved last year but haven't received the top 1.5 inches of asphalt yet. They're a little more susceptible to the rutting. So most likely,
Don't go and where, they're all posted.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, I went up to Pat's Peak, my grandkids this past weekend, and orange sign here, orange sign there, here, they're pretty much all posted all the way up.
So probably next couple weeks, as we get into March, we'll send out the mailers to the oil delivery trucks and that kind of stuff, so they'll be ready for it. But you can expect that it's going to be a very limited posting this year based on the temperatures thus far.
Enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got anything else, Derek?
No.
Motion, Mark?
Motion to.
Let me ask one, is anybody here for public comment? Seeing none? Close public comment. Mark?
Motion to go into non-public session, RSA 91A:3, 2A, for compensation and be hired. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it?
To have a motion to go non-public.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly. Mark?
Yes.
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 That'll conclude tonight's public portion of the meeting.